Okay, so for this week's lesson, we're going to take a look at using some open strings in our country plan. This first example I'm going to show you is a really simple, basic concept, and what I'm doing is taking any scale that I'm already familiar with and replacing some of the fretted notes with the matching open strings. And what I mean by that is if our scale has an E in it, instead of using this fretted E, we're going to replace it with this open string E. If our scale has a B, instead of using this fretted B, we'll just replace it with the open B. Same thing with the G, the D, and the A. So let's take this scale that works over a G7 chord, for example. If we run it from top to bottom, it sounds like this. But if we replace some of these fretted notes with the matching open strings, we get this sound. Exact same scale, same notes, same order, but a completely different effect with these open strings ringing into each other. And like I said, this works with literally any scale that consists of an E, a B, a G, a D, or an A. So let's take this scale and use it musically. Use it in a way that we can actually use live. So the lick we're going to do sounds like this. So let's take a look at that. We're going to start off on the 8th fret B string, pull that off to 6, and hit your open E with your middle finger. Every time we hit an open string, it's going to be with your right hand's middle finger. Everything else we're going to use our pick for. Next, you're going to do the exact same thing on your G string down 1 fret. So we're going to go 7, 5, open B. And then 7th fret D string to your open G. And that's the first octave of the scale. From there, we're going to go 8, 7 on your A to your D string, open. Same thing on your E and A string, 8, 7, open A. And then slide from 1 to 2 on your A string, and then end back on your root note, 3rd fret E string. And then we'll end it with this simple little cliche bluegrass lick that I'm sure you've heard before. So you're already on your root note there. So from there, we're going to go open A, slide from 1 to 2, open D, pull off from your 2nd fret back to your open D, and end with your root note, open string G. So let me play that really slow. And in context, up to speed. So when you do this, don't just take this scale or this example. Use, like I said, it works with literally any scale that you can use these open strings with. So as long as your scale has an E, a B, a G, a D, or an A in it, then you can replace the fretted notes with some of these open strings. So for this next section of the lesson, I'm going to show you maybe the most important thing I've learned to develop my style as a country guitar player, and that's using open strings to turn one lick into multiple licks. I'll play this example for you, break it down, and then explain what I'm talking about. This is going to work over an A7 chord. So what we're going to do, we're going to find your root note on your high E string. Should be the 5th fret. From there, go 5, 8 on your B to an open E. Basically the first 3 notes of your pentatonic scale if you're descending. We're just using the open E string. From there, we're going to go 5th fret on your B, 7th fret on your G, open B. And then slide from 5 to 6, and then 7th fret on your D. And that's a cool lick in itself. From there, you're going to go open G, 7 to 6 on your A string, open D, open A, and then slide from 3 to 4 on your A string, and then end on your root note. Now you could do this root note on the 2nd fret G string, or the root note on your 5th fret E string. Exact same thing, just in a different octave. So, again slow. Now let's end it with the octave down. So that's the lick. Now here's the cool part, is typically if you want to move, say if we want to do a lick that's an A, and we want to do that exact same lick in G, just move it down 2 frets. That's exactly what we're going to do with this lick, but what's cool about it is the intervals in between the open strings and the fretted notes are going to change. So it's technically a completely different lick. And the same thing goes if you want to do it higher up the neck, then those intervals in between the fretted notes and the open strings are going to become wider and wider. It just gives you a really cool sound. So let's take this lick in A, and let's try it out in G. Still works. Let's try it in B. Let's try it in C. Try it in D. In E. In F. It works pretty much over every chord that you're going to hear typically in country music. Doesn't work great over G sharp, and it doesn't work great over A sharp. But all your standard chords that you generally play over, your G, your D, your A, your E, your F, your B, and your C, it works over all of those. And not just for this lick, but any open string lick you do, just try to move it to a different key, do it in that key, and the intervals in between the open strings and the fretted notes are going to change, therefore giving you a completely different lick. So let's try this in context. Let's go from a A7 to a G7. Again, doing that exact same lick. And if we, if it goes up to our D7 after that, same thing. So play around with that, not only with this example, but with any open string lick that you may already know. Try to plug it into different chords and hear the way that the intervals between the open strings and the fretted notes will change and give you cool sounds. So for this last example, I'm going to take the notes out of an E7 arpeggio, combine it with open strings to get this sound. Basically all I'm doing is taking 2 notes at a time out of this E7 arpeggio. We've got our root and a third and our fifth, our flat 7, our flat 7 and our root, back to our root and our third. So taking 2 at a time, and then the next string I hit open. And I do that all the way up the neck across the arpeggio. And the way I'm going to pick this, I'm going to go pick middle ring with my right hand. It's what's called a banjo roll. So, pick middle ring on 12, 11, open D. Then move that to the next 2 notes in the chord. Go 11, 9, open G. This one sounds really dissonant because of that minor second interval in between the G and G sharp. But up to speed and in context of the lick, then you don't really hear that dissonance. Next we're going to go 9, 7, open B, and then we'll end it with 7, 5, open E. So that's the arpeggio. Now we're going to end it with this little bluegrass lick. Pull from 5 to open E, slide from 3 to 4, go 5th fret B, open E, and pull from 3 to 4, or 3 to open on your B. From there, pull or pick 3, pick 2, pull off to open G. And then go 2 on your D, 2 on your G, 2 on your D, open G, hammer to 1, and end with your root note, which is the 2nd fret D string. So now let's do that lick in its entirety really slow. A little bit quicker. And up to speed. So let's take a look at this arpeggio shape and apply what we learned last lesson, and that is to change keys and keep the open strings the same to get a completely different sound. So let's, instead of doing this in E, see what it sounds like in D. Still sounds great. Let's try it in C. Still sounds great, but this is where we run into problems because we run out of frets. Can't go any lower than an open string. So the way that I deal with this problem is take the same notes. Let's stay in the key of D. Take these same notes and do it on one set of strings. Let's go our D and our G string. So instead of this, we're going to get this. Exact same notes, just running up the neck on 2 strings. And so what I'm going to do is take a pattern of hammer-ons to fit over 1 or 2 beats and play it over each of these chord tones. So the pattern I'm going to use is this. So open D, hammer to 4, open G, hammer to 2, 4th fret D, open G. I'm going to use this going up the neck on chord tones out of my D7 chord. So the next one we're going to do is 7-5, then 10 to 7, and then 12 to 11. And when you put these together, it sounds like this. Really, really cool trick. And the cool thing about it is when the chords change behind you, then you can change the notes to fit over the next chord. So for example, if we're going from D to G, we just change these notes to fit over a D7 chord, or a G7 chord, I'm sorry. So instead of this, we'll get this. So it'll be 5 to 4, 9 to 7, 12 to 10, 15 to 12. And you can hear, even though I've got no backing chords behind me, you can still hear these chord changes when I go from D to G. If we wanted to go to A, back to D, you can still hear those changes. And the notes that I use out of the A7 chord are 5 to 2, 7 to 6, 11 to 9, 14 to 12. So let's try that slow using the hammer-ons, going from a D to a G to an A to a D. Try that up to speed. Really, really cool little trick. And you can use this series of hammer-ons. You can use it over the long arpeggio where we went across all 6 strings. Let's stay in the key of D, and instead of doing these banjo rolls, we're just going to do this hammer pattern. going across all 6 strings. Really, really cool country trick that I use all the time. Every single night I'll use this. And then when you're doing this, try to combine with different chords, and then try to go in between this and that. Don't just rely on one pattern. Try to combine them both over different chord changes and you'll get some really cool sounds. So that is it for this lesson. Not sure what we're going to do next week. Probably stick with the country thing, but we'll see then. Hope you guys enjoyed it.